What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college football, and today we are discussing Rutgers ahead of the 2025 season. If you like this content, please consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel. Both of those things help a small growing channel like this a lot, even just getting in front of new viewers. So thank you if you've done that. If you have any feedback on Rutgers, suggestions for future videos as far as teams go, or any sort of feedback, just leave it in the comments below. We will take a look at last year before we pivot to this year's roster. Here are the efficiency metrics for Rutgers. Another winning season for the Scarlet Knights. They finished 7-6. They reach a bowl game for the third time in the last 4 years, which all should be considered a success for Greg Schiano. But the expectations last year were a little different. They returned most of their starters on offense and defense. There was potential dark horse Big Ten championship candidates. I don't know if they would have made the game or just even had a chance at winning, but people were talking about it. But they got riddled with injuries almost from the start. On defense, never quite lived up to expectation. They finished 67th overall, largely because of a good pass rush. But players like Motore were out. Tyree Powell missed the first month of the season. They just never quite got their footing on defense, and a lot of that because their run defense was outside the top 100. But on offense, they were a surprisingly good unit. Despite some injuries there as well, they played to their strengths. Their best unit was their rushing attack. They were top 10 in run blocking. They had Kalma Nungai, who got drafted by the Chicago Bears late, but still drafted. And then their offense, when they did pass, they worked into the success, at least the successful parts of Ethan Kaliak-Manis' game. He's a limited signal caller, but they tried not to push the ball downfield as much as they could, which is a credit to Kirk Shiraka and this team. Overall, it was a pretty good season for Rutgers. And now we have Greg Schiano entering year 6 already, which is crazy. In his second stint with the program, in between, he was the defensive coordinator for Ohio State for a bit of time. He is now 26-34 in this current stint with Rutgers. However, the trajectory is positive. We just mentioned bowl games 3 of the last 4 years. They have a pair of 7-6 seasons the last 2 years. A lot of close losses. If you look at what happened to Rutgers last year, lost by single digits to Nebraska, UCLA, Illinois, and Kansas State in the bowl game. Their only losses by double digits were against Wisconsin and USC. However, they did have a couple wins by single digits: Virginia Tech, Minnesota, Washington. They played a close style of football, and it showed up. Offensively, Kirk Shiraka is back, third year as OC. He was previously the offensive coordinator of Penn State in 2020, Minnesota in 2022. Didn't last long with either programs, was kind of run out of the building in both cases. But last year, he put up a surprisingly efficient offense considering the limitations that Rutgers was playing with. And then on defense, they lose Joe Harasimiak. He goes to UMass to be the head coach. So now they list co-DCs between Rob Smith and Zach Sparber. Rob Smith most recently was an analyst with Penn State for the last 2 seasons. Previously, he coordinated Duke's defense. He was on the Rutgers staff actually at the beginning of the second stint of the Greg Schiano era. So there's some familiarity. Sparber comes from James Madison. That's where he coached linebackers last season. So there is a little bit of continuity, just with some more familiarity is probably the best way to say that. Let's look at talent acquisition for Rutgers over the last couple seasons. They've been recruiting at a surprising level. You know, this team is never going to approach Ohio State, never going to approach Oregon at the top of the Big Ten. But if you're going to rattle off the 33rd, 36th recruiting class the last 2 seasons, that's pretty good for Rutgers. You can stack those because they're actually maintaining their rosters a little better than some other teams in the Big Ten, which is a surprise to me considering Rutgers is a weird location to play in this conference. Now, that's still 10th, 11th recruiting classes in the Big Ten. They have a ways to go and they need to develop, unlike other teams. But they can bolster their units with the portal. This year, they're 49th. They have shown the ability to get around the top 50 in a lot of their transfer classes. So talent acquisition for Rutgers, it's about as high as it's going to get and much higher than we've seen in some previous seasons. But now let's take a look at those classes and see how they look on the field with the 2-deep roster. This tool is available in the Discord. It is linked below if you are interested. We have transfers in yellow, then the year they are in school, how many snaps they've played the last 2 years, followed by their recruiting ranking in terms of star, and then a value score. What that value score is, it looks first at your recruiting, then it takes into consideration the more snaps you've played. So the more snaps, the more accurate this is. But overall, 50 is considered just your average player, giving you a frame of reference as we talk about these guys. At quarterback, they returned 8th in Gajewski. He is a former 4-star, the Minnesota transfer from last season. He came out and he started right away for Rutgers, completed 53.9% of his passes for 2,696 yards. That was 6.8 yards per attempt. He had 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 15 big-time throws, and 19 turnover-worthy plays. He's a big signal caller at 6'3", 215, and somewhat mobile as well. 251 rushing yards. That was 2.7 yards per carry. Didn't take a ton of sacks, just 22, which ended up being a 14.5 pressure to sack ratio. That's above average. But the biggest thing with his game is they designed a quick hitting offense in the pass game for him. 2.71 seconds to throw. It made a lot of sense considering Gajewski's struggles throwing down the field. Last year, he completed 27% of his passes beyond 20 yards. He only completed 51% between yards 10 to 19. And some of it's on his receivers. They did drop a lot of passes, 26. That was good for 11% towards the top of the country. But there are limitations with the Gajewski offense, and we did see it sputter a little bit down the stretch. That's my biggest concern. Now that there's some film on Gajewski and the Kirk Shiraka offense, can teams figure this out more or less? Or does he just improve and become a better downfield passer? Do they have fewer drops? Can they scheme up touches that look a little different than last year so we don't get to that same sputtering passing game that we saw at times? Part of that, Ty Felton was banged up. Perhaps that had something to do with it. Behind him, they have a 4-star AJ Surace, who is 6'2", 215. Pocket passer on paper, played well in the spring game. All reports have been positive. He should be the clear backup this season, which gives them multiple options. At running back, we mentioned it, they lose Kyle Monangai, so they go out and they add CJ Campbell from FAU to help ease the loss. He's a Florida State transfer originally, goes to FAU last year. 5'10", 205 pounds, played not much at Florida State, but last year, 844 yards, good for 5.1 yards per carry, caught 40 passes with FAU, very good efficiency, over 4 yards after contact per carry, 48 missed tackles. He's going to have every opportunity to lead this backfield, but I think there's a good chance we see him in committee with Antoine Raymond or Samuel Brown V. Even Jason Benjamin is back. Brown is the most interesting to me. He's 6'1", 225, over 5 yards per carry for him. And he was good in 2022 and 2023. I think we would have seen more of him last year if it weren't for a Week 7 injury that limited him to 5 games. So he is sort of a player that's flashed over multiple seasons, but whether it's been just playing behind Monangai or injuries, he hasn't gotten on the field as much as I thought he might. Raymond played a lot last year when Brown went down. He's 5'11", 205, 4.6 yards per carry for him. He finished with 457 yards, 3 catches. Pretty good efficiency for him as well. Should be behind those two, I think. And then finally, Benjamin, more of a depth piece. He's 5'9", 200 pounds, rushing 19 times last year, 5.3 yards per carry. And if just as far as the running back as a whole, if you're alarmed by the low catch numbers for all these players, Rutgers throws to the running backs at one of the lowest rates in the country. They keep their running backs into pass block at one of the highest rates in the country. Their offensive line was sort of imbalanced, very good run blocking, poor in the pass game. So perhaps that's a reason why, and with another year of improvement, maybe they're better, but just a little nuance. Overall, it's going to be hard to replace an NFL draft pick in Monangai, but I think it's in a decent spot. Wide receiver. They lose Demir Miller, Chris Long, and Christian Dremel, but they return their wide receiver to Ian Strong, who had a very good season last year, 43 catches, 676 yards. He is 6'3", 215, played on the perimeter 96% of the time, and well above average with 2.25 yards per route. Chris Long, excellent receiver, should lead this group. I'm really excited for 4-star sophomore KJ Duff. This kid is 6'6", 220 pounds. 89% of the time he was on the perimeter. He caught 27 balls for 425 yards, 1.52 yards per route. And there's a lot of room for growth. With his frame, he should be better on contested catches. He only caught 30% of those. His ADOT was deep downfield. And we already mentioned Kaliakman is not his best area. I hope that they use him a little more in the intermediate game, or Kaliakmanis can improve, because there's so much hype around this guy. I'm honestly surprised he's still with the program, but credit to Rutgers for keeping KJ Duff and recruiting him to begin with. The guy looks like a freak on the field and provides some upside as long as they can put this together. From there, they add former JUCO transfer, current North Texas transfer, DT Sheffield. He's 5'10", 175. I think he mans the slot. He originally played at JUCO, then he goes to Washington State for a season. But with North Texas, 66 catches, 816 yards, 11 touchdowns, 93% slot rate, very good yard per route, 2.37. He should be just fine. And I think it's pretty clear because the rest of the group is fairly unproven. You have Ben Black. He played 221 snaps, 12 catches for him. Not the most efficient, but I mean, you're playing behind Ty Feldman. It is what it is. And Caden Prather. Fama Torres back. He played 28 snaps. Dylan Braithwaite played 4 snaps 2 years ago, 0 last year. But honestly, I would not be surprised if freshmen jump this group we're talking about now, because you have a 4-star freshman in Michael Thomas III coming in. And 3-star freshman Vernon Allen has been one of the better players this spring. He had 98 yards on 5 catches in the spring game. Jordan Houston's another name to mention. So once you get beyond the DT Sheffield, KJ Duff, and Ian Strong, I think very well you could see a receiver who is a freshman play more than we expect. Speaking of injuries, tight end was decimated last year. Now they're getting back most of their players. But Kenny Fletcher, he got hurt after 6 games. He was their lead tight end to begin the season, 6'3", 250. He had 20 catches for 137 yards while playing almost all of his snaps in line. Not the best blocker, but he still led the position group and was well above average. Then they have their clear roles. I mean, they're situational players. Victor Konopka is back. He is 6'7", 270, as you can imagine, basically a blocker. He also got hurt in week 7. He's back. So he can be your sort of 6th offensive lineman, very good in 12 personnel. Because of the Konopka and Fletcher injuries, Mike Higgins and Logan Blake had to play a lot. Higgins is 6'5", 255. Average blocker, caught 5 passes when he was asked to play. Blake is 6'6", 255. He's a junior. He was an average blocker, 2 catches for him. They have more snaps than we expected them to see, giving, at the very least, depth to this Rutgers offense. They also added Colin Weber from Charlotte. Very good blocker down there. He's 6'4", 255. Caught 54 balls for 572 yards over the last 2 years. Tight end should be a strength for this team, and it gives you the ability to play with multiple personnel packages. It's a very good unit. Offensive line, they lose just 1 starter. It was their best starter, left tackle Holland Pierce. This unit was much better run blocking than pass blocking, so hopefully you can just develop that a little bit. But there's a lot of returning production. Tackle, you have Taj White and Tyler Needham back. Both of them had to play because of injury. Taj White played everywhere. He played 53 snaps at left tackle, 296 at right tackle, 333 at left guard. He struggled a lot in pass blocking. Should come as no surprise given the efficiency metrics here. 4 sacks, 28 QB pressures. Extremely good run blocker, though. And kind of the same thing for Tyler Needham, who played almost exclusively right tackle. I wouldn't be surprised if they keep him here and just have Taj play left to start the year. But Tyler Needham, 671 snaps. He allowed 21 pressures, 2 sacks. Not the best pass blocking, but not as bad as Taj White. He was another elite run blocker. So both of your tackle positions, hopefully you can just manufacture some pass protection because your run blocking is set. At guard, Brian Felter is back. He's another player that got hurt 4 games in, goes down. He played 257 snaps, looked very good when he was out there. But he also started in 2023, so we have more of a sample for him. Only 7 pressures, no sacks, and 1 QB hit. Very good run blocker. He could do it all. He might be their best offensive lineman as long as he can stay healthy. His injury allowed Dante Chin to play more, 352 snaps. He was decent across the board, so I think he's more of a rotational piece. I think of a 6th man on the offensive line, especially because he should be behind Felter at left guard. And that's also because they returned their right guard, Kwabena Asamoah. He played 918 snaps. Not the best pass blocking, 19 pressures, but very good run blocking, well above average there. Asamoah should slide in at right guard. And then finally getting to the interior at center, Gus Zielinskis is back. Started the last 2 years. Big step forward last year. Extremely good run blocker and another solid pass protection. Him and Felter were the 2 best here. 15 pressures, 1 sack. So if you can sort of piece together your tackles and Asamoah can improve a little bit pass blocking, this should be another very good offensive line in this conference, which is important for a team that wants to run the ball. They also have a lot of depth. We talked about Gus Zielinskis. Hank Zielinskis comes back. The brother of Gus, he played with Colorado last year, 553 snaps, well above average. He was solid. They bring in a couple FCS guys. Ryder Langsdale comes in from Lafayette. He was a 3-year starter there. Elite metrics. Hasn't allowed a sack in 2 years. Zach Amlin comes in from Illinois. Just a young player. He hasn't played yet. He's a sophomore without a snap. Probably a depth piece. Justin Cesare comes in from New Haven. He was an All-American in D2. Very big jump in competition. And Moshood Giwa comes in from LIU, Long Island. 9 pressures allowed, but poor as a run blocker. Most of those players are going to be depth, which is something they needed last year and didn't have all the time. It's a very good offensive line, one of the better units in the conference. Defense, very banged up defense last year. They return a lot, lose a little bit off the edge. 2 of their top 3 edges are back. They only lost Aaron Lewis. Jordan Thompson played 435 snaps, 19 pressures, average run defense. He's played almost 1,000 snaps throughout his career, a lot of that in rotation until last year. He's a foundational piece, a strong piece, and they're going to need him because Jordan Walker, he had to play a lot over the last couple seasons, especially last year where he played 325 snaps. He's a former walk-on. Now, for a walk-on, he really surprised last year. He had 22 pressures and strong run defense numbers. I'm not sure it's ideal having Jordan Walker out there, but he showed he is capable of actually handling Big Ten play. And they might not need him because they add a couple transfers. Eric O'Neill comes in from James Madison. He originally was an LIU transfer to James Madison. And then last year, his only year with the program, 589 snaps, 59 pressures, and 13 sacks. He's been extremely productive everywhere he's gone. Seamless transition from FCS to James Madison. Now we'll do Sun Belt to Big Ten, but man, was he good. And then Bradley Weaver comes in from Ohio. 606 snaps, 49 pressures, and 10 sacks. I mean, they're lower level guys, but they were so productive down there. You project a step back, but even with a step back, I mean, these guys are very good. And if they don't work, Aaron Lewis, Jordan Walker, it's an extremely good edge group. Defensive tackle, they lose Keontae Hamilton and Malcolm Ray, but they also go to the portal. They add Doug Blue Eli from USF. The South Florida transfer has 2 years of starting experience. Below average pass rushing, but that's not why he's on the field. He's 315. He's your run stuffer. He was good at that. They bring in Daryl Dengohi from James Madison. I know he's a local kid, and he played 275 snaps for James Madison. He's 295. He's good across the board. Didn't get on the field as much as maybe you would have liked, but Dengohi was a solid rotational player. And then finally, they bring in Oliver Bilott from Kent State. Got hurt after 5 games last year, 8 pressure, solid run defense. He was a starter the year prior. The big concern with Bilott is he's only 280, so probably just a rotational defensive tackle. But they might not need all those transfers either. 238 snaps come back from Zaire Angoy, 282 from Keyshawn Griffin. This is a pretty deep unit. They also have a handful of snaps from Jabril Abdul-Rahman back. The defensive line should be better than last year, and it was already a pretty good unit for this team, especially when you look at what they did in pass rush. Run defense should be improved with the transfers. At linebacker, they lose Tyreen Powell. They do return Daryl Jaboom. He played a lot last year. 105 tackles, led the team. 8 tackles for loss, led the team. Coverage needs a little bit of work. 83% completion for 436 yards, 2 touchdowns. But Jaboom was an awesome player to begin this linebacker room. They also have former 4-star Moses Walker, played 211 snaps. Very good run defender, 31 tackles for him. Struggled in coverage. All 11 of the targets into his coverage were completed for 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not much experience behind them. Abram Wright played 89 snaps. He got hurt, so season-ending injury limited him. Sam Robinson played 4 snaps. They have a 4-star freshman in DJ McClary. A little less proven than the front unit, the defensive line, but still far from barren in this linebacker room. I think it should be okay at worst. Defensive back, they lose both their safeties. Shaquan Loyal, Flip Dixon. They lose a couple corners, Robert Longerbeam, Eric Rogers. They do have Bo Masco back, who played 561 snaps on the boundary. Not the best run defender, missed 11 tackles, but he was very good in coverage, 50% completion for 104 yards, 1 interception, 5 PBUs. He should start on the boundary, and I think one of the transfers will be his counterpart, probably Cam Miller, 4-star with Penn State, played in and out of the slot through his career. 869 snaps through 3 years. Last year, he was primarily a slot. 23 tackles, 64% completion, 351 yards for 2 touchdowns and 5 PBUs. He's going to be playing in Rutgers now, so it should be a little easier. I think he could play in the slot to start. With their other transfer, Jacoby Henderson from Marshall, maybe playing the boundary. I'm not sure how they rotate these two guys. I think one is going to play the slot, one is going to play the boundary. But Henderson had to play the boundary, obviously at a lower level of competition. He played nearly 800 snaps, 49% completion percentage for 392 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 11 PBUs. Awesome place to start, just needs to jump in competition. If he can't make the jump, they still have Al-Shadi Salam, the former running back who played corner last year. He was pretty good as a rotational piece, and I was surprised. That transition is not easy. The rest of the group is inexperienced or pretty low level. Sage Claudius is a 3-star junior. He played 28 snaps. Michael Robinson II is a former walk-on. He had 27. Kevin Levy played 32. So kind of reliant on that upfront unit unless their depth is a little better than I think it is and there's more development. Corner's a little weaker than last year, but they lost 2 corners, not surprising. Safety. They returned 515 snaps from sophomore 4-star Kaj Sanders. He was forced into action early last year. He was a freshman. He didn't exactly excel. He missed 10 tackles, gave up a couple big plays, but still only a 38% completion percentage. That is awesome. There's a lot of potential if he can clean up a few of the mental mistakes, which are excusable as a freshman. He is upside to be the best player in the secondary immediately this year, given his recruiting pedigree and what we saw among the flashes last year. The other safety is probably a transfer. Jet Elab comes in from UNLV. He started there the last 2 years, took a major step forward last year. 84 tackles, was third on the team, 60% completion percentage, 1 pick, 6 PBUs. I think he's your starter. They also get Chris Joins from Mercer. He only started 1 of his 3 years there, but a solid player. He only allowed a 61% completion, 207 scoreless yards. FCS transfers generally have a better profile than him, so I think he's a depth piece, but he should maybe be pressed into action, and then he'll be fine if he is, I think. Other depth pieces, DK Gilly played 5 snaps. Jesse Ofuri played 21. There's just not much here beyond the transfers and Kosh Sanders. So secondary, I think, is a little weaker, but still a pretty good unit overall. Special teams, they do return Jai Patel, 3rd season kicking for Rutgers. Only missed 1 of his 42 extra points last year, but he was 15 of 19 on field goals, 0 of 2 from 50, 4 from 40 to 49. He had 2 rogue misses inside 40, which was weird. And those were kind of detrimental. He finishes the 71st most efficient kicker in college football. Special teams should be okay. They can't be worse. They were 124th. So improve that, and maybe you win some more of those close games that you were in last year. But let's look at the schedule for Rutgers. Overall, I like this roster. It is better than people are talking about, considering their transfers and their returning production. One hang-up for me is the offense limited because of your QB. But let's talk schedule, the most important factor for these teams. Rutgers has an easy non-con. They should be 3-0. They beat Ohio, Miami, Ohio, Norfolk State. Ohio being probably the friskiest of those MAC teams. But holy smokes, what did they do to deserve this conference schedule? You play Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State. Yes, only one of them is on the road, but 2 of them are in back-to-back weeks in your final 2 games. And then you don't even have a lot of cupcakes from the Big Ten. You go play the entire middle class of this conference. You have Iowa in week 4. You have a road trip to Minnesota in week 5, a road trip to Washington in week 7. Then you play Illinois, a road trip in week 10. I mean, you do play Maryland and you play Purdue. So I guess those should be 2 easy wins. But I mean, find me another win here. Your next most difficult games are all on the road. Washington, road. Minnesota, road. Illinois, road. I mean, this is a very, very difficult schedule, not to mention just playing the 3 toughest teams in this conference. It's going to be hard for Rutgers to get to a bowl. I mean, I see a path to it. You win your 3 non-con games. You beat your easy Big Ten opponents in Purdue and Maryland. And then Rutgers is certainly good enough to knock off one of these other games, whether it's Minnesota, Washington, Illinois. I don't know which one it would be. That gets you to 6. That gets you to a bowl. But you can't slip up more than once anywhere on the schedule. It is very unforgiving. So, man, it's the opposite of Maryland's schedule, who we're going to talk about tomorrow. But, man, tough schedule for Rutgers. I hope they can make a bowl. So I am excited about this roster. But let me know what you guys think. We'll be back again soon. Maryland up next. If you'd like to see a team, let me know. Otherwise, until next time, good luck. We will see you later.